Podcast script: Understanding Muscle Disorders in Horses Through Nutrition. Hello, and welcome to the Equine Health Podcast. Today, we're diving deep into the world of muscle disorders in horses, and more specifically, how nutrition plays a crucial role in managing these conditions. We're drawing from the latest research to give you practical insights that can help improve the health and performance of your equine companions. Let's start with the basics. Exertional myopathies are muscle conditions that cause pain and can impair a horse's performance, especially during or after exercise. One specific type is known as exertional rhabdomyolysis, ER, which involves the degeneration of muscle fibers. You might hear it referred to as tying up. When a horse experiences this, there are often elevated levels of certain enzymes, such as creatine kinase, or CK, and aspartate transaminase, or AST, in their blood. One of the primary causes of exertional rhabdomyolysis that was identified is polysaccharide storage myopathy, or PSSM. This condition is characterized by the presence of abnormal glycogen, a form of sugar stored in the muscles. There are different types of PSSM. Type 1, or PSSM1, is associated with a mutation in the glycogen synthase 1 gene. Type 2, or PSSM2, involves horses showing abnormal glycogen stains, but without the specific PSSM1 mutation. It was common practice to recommend a low nonstructural carbohydrate, high-fat diet for all horses diagnosed with polysaccharide storage myopathy, regardless of whether they had type 1 or type 2. Recommendations for feeding PSSM2 horses have evolved because of breed-based research into muscle glycogen concentrations, histologic markers, and molecular approaches to better classify PSSM2. There are other forms of exertional rhabdomyolysis, including malignant hyperthermia, recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis, and myofibrillar myopathy in Arabian horses. It's worth noting that not all exertional myopathies result in exertional rhabdomyolysis or elevated creatine kinase and aspartate transaminase levels. In warm-blood horses, researchers identified another form of myofibrillar myopathy that leads to exercise intolerance. It was discovered when these horses showed reluctance to move forward, collect, or engage their hindquarters. Nutrition, along with exercise, is a critical part of managing horses with myopathies. Remember, each horse is unique, and an optimal feeding program should be designed to address their specific myopathy. A good feeding program for horses with myopathies starts with a nutritionally balanced diet that provides appropriate calories, along with adequate protein, vitamins, and minerals. To develop a ration, start by determining the horse's daily nutrient requirements, considering factors such as age, breed, body size, growth rate, and exercise level. Forage should be the foundation of any equine diet. The type and intake of forage needs to be established before choosing concentrates or supplements. For horses with exertional myopathies, it's especially important to manage the energy sources in their diet. In the United States, energy requirements are measured in megacalories of digestible energy. Digestible energy can come from nonstructural carbohydrates, fat, fiber, and protein. Nonstructural carbohydrates are the sum of water-soluble carbohydrates, or sugars, and starch. Many concentrates designed for horses with exertional rhabdomyolysis are low in nonstructural carbohydrates and high in fat. Unfortunately, it isn't always easy to determine the nonstructural carbohydrate content of commercial concentrates because these values aren't typically guaranteed on feed tags. Most feed manufacturers can supply this information, but it isn't regulated by any governmental agency. To figure out how much concentrate a horse needs, calculate the digestible energy requirement of the horse and subtract the digestible energy they get from forage. The digestible energy requirement depends on the horse's activity level and current energy status, such as whether they need to lose, gain, or maintain their body weight. Most commercial concentrates are designed to meet nearly all of a horse's protein, mineral, and vitamin needs when fed at the recommended level. However, if a horse is eating less concentrate than recommended, or if they're on high-quality forage, they may need additional supplementation. Electrolytes, amino acids, vitamin E, and other antioxidants are examples of supplements for horses with myopathies. Now let's get into some specific recommendations for different types of myopathies. For horses experiencing sporadic exertional rhabdomyolysis, total nutrient needs will depend on the horse's size, breed, discipline, and activity level. These horses need adequate amounts of high-quality forage, and a concentrate with moderate levels of soluble carbohydrate, fat, and fiber is usually appropriate. If a horse with sporadic exertional rhabdomyolysis doesn't need additional calories, they don't necessarily need increased dietary fat. If a horse requires low concentrate, they may need supplemental protein, minerals, and vitamins. Some underweight horses may benefit from vegetable oil or stabilized rice bran. Electrolyte imbalances are also a common cause of sporadic exertional rhabdomyolysis, so provide free access to a salt block and supplement with salt or a commercial electrolyte as needed. It is also wise to evaluate selenium and vitamin E status. For recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis, or RER, nutrient needs will also vary depending on individual factors. Recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis is most common in thoroughbred and standardbred racehorses, who have high digestible energy needs. When feeding these horses, it is not as important to select hay with very low nonstructural carbohydrate content as it is when feeding horses with polysaccharide storage myopathy. Some trainers find that horses with recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis have more frequent episodes of exertional rhabdomyolysis when fed alfalfa hay, so it should be avoided in those individuals. Horses with recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis may be prone to gastric ulcers, so frequent hay with a moderate nonstructural carbohydrate and mixed alfalfa content may be indicated. Muscle damage can be significantly reduced in exercising horses with recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis when fat is substituted for nonstructural carbohydrates. For horses with recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis requiring high digestible energy intakes, no more than 20% of daily digestible energy intake should come from nonstructural carbohydrates, and 20 to 25% should come from fat. The benefit of a high-fat diet for recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis does not appear to be a change in muscle metabolism. Rather, low nonstructural carbohydrate, high-fat diets may decrease muscle damage by reducing anxiety and excitability, which are linked to developing rhabdomyolysis. Low nonstructural carbohydrate, high-fat diets fed to fit horses with recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis produce lower glucose, insulin, and cortisol responses. Racehorse concentrates for horses with recurrent exertional rhabdomyolysis should contain 12 to 18% nonstructural carbohydrate and 10 to 13% fat by weight. The water-soluble carbohydrates in feeds produce higher glycemic responses than starch. Studies show that post-exercise serum creatine kinase activity reduces within a week of commencing a low-starch, high-fat diet. Supplementation with vitamin E, vitamin C, and coenzyme Q10 may help reduce oxidative stress, and supplementation with omega-3 long-chain polyunsaturated fatty acids may help reduce long-term inflammation. Both type 1 polysaccharide storage myopathy and type 2 polysaccharide storage myopathy with exertional rhabdomyolysis are glycogen storage diseases. The most important thing to consider when designing a ration for these horses is meeting their caloric needs for an ideal body weight. Adding excessive calories in the form of fat to an overweight horse may cause metabolic syndrome and is not recommended. If a horse needs fewer calories, a grazing muzzle, hay with a lower nonstructural carbohydrate content, a low-calorie ration balancer, and daily exercise can be used. A horse can also be fasted for 6 hours before exercise to elevate plasma-free fatty acids and alleviate any restrictions in muscle energy metabolism. Because insulin stimulates the already overactive enzyme glycogen synthase in the muscle of type 1 polysaccharide storage myopathy horses, it is advisable to select hay with 12% or less nonstructural carbohydrate. A high nonstructural carbohydrate diet increases the chance of muscle pain with aerobic exercise in these horses. Concentrates for these horses should be low in nonstructural carbohydrates and low glycemic. High-fat concentrates can be included in the diet, but additional fat supplementation may be required if daily intake is low. Some seasoned endurance horses develop muscle stiffness, cramping, myoglobinuria, and high serum creatine kinase at the end of long races. These horses were found to have normal glycogen concentration, but myofibrillar disarray. It was discovered that these horses had aggregates of the cytoskeletal protein desmin and were classified as myofibrillar myopathy with exertional rhabdomyolysis. Because endurance riders worry that high-protein diets may increase body heat, urine production, and water needs, they often feed low-protein rations. However, These levels of protein may be deficient in specific amino acids needed for muscle repair. Because the myofibrillar myopathy in Arabian endurance horses is related to oxidative stress from fat oxidation, it is questionable whether they need extremely high fat intakes. Concentrates for these horses should include higher levels of protein containing high-quality amino acids, moderate levels of nonstructural carbohydrates, and fat. Whey-based proteins are recommended because they are rich in cysteine, which is a key component of many antioxidants. Supplementation with N-acetylcysteine has been shown to increase gluteal muscle glutathione. Coenzyme Q10 is a key component in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. Research into a subset of warm bloods with polysaccharide storage myopathy found normal muscle glycogen concentrations, myofibrillar disarray, and desmin aggregation, which led to reclassification as myofibrillar myopathy. A diagnosis is based on muscle biopsy, and a trial period of 6 to 8 weeks on the diet developed for these horses would be warranted if other causes of exercise intolerance have been investigated and ruled out. Rations should focus on providing quality protein and specific amino acids to aid in sarcomere regenesis. Concentrates for these horses should include higher levels of protein containing high-quality amino acids and moderate levels of non-structural carbohydrates and fat. Amino acid supplements are recommended for horses with symmetric top-line muscle atrophy. Supplementation with N-acetylcysteine is recommended because it can increase post-exercise gluteal muscle glutathione. It has been recommended that horses with myofibrillar myopathy have coenzyme Q10. So, to summarize, it's crucial to distinguish between exertional rhabdomyolysis, identified by measuring serum creatine kinase, and exercise intolerance due to myofibrillar myopathy. An exercise challenge test with creatine kinase, measured 4 hours after exercise, can help make this distinction. While horses with exertional rhabdomyolysis benefit from diets lower in non-structural carbohydrates and fat supplementation, horses with myofibrillar myopathy need moderate amounts of non-structural carbohydrates, less fat, and increased amino acids with N-acetylcysteine and antioxidants. That wraps up our discussion on the role of nutrition in managing muscle disorders in horses. Remember, always consult with your veterinarian or a qualified equine nutritionist to create a feeding plan that meets the unique needs of your horse. From Vet NeuroJar, keep those minds inspired, hearts light, and tails wagging.